If you're here, you've probably started modding Dragon Age Inquisition and heard about the DLCs. And as I've recently went back down the rabbit hole that is making it all work, I'm here to help you with my years of asking the maker why repeatedly and then somehow making it all work anyways. Will these tips work for everyone? Probably not, but they're as good a place as any to start. As a disclaimer, I've been modding the DLCs since they launched, and these tips do come from my own personal experience. The tips are going to assume that you already know how to mod for DAI with both Frosty and .dai mods. If you don't know how, make sure to check out my tutorials that'll be linked in the description of this video. This vid also assumes that you're going to be doing all of the DLCs after the main campaign. If you plan to mix them into the main game experience, most of these tips will of course still work, but you'll just need to remember to install all of your main mods back in when needed. First and foremost, the best way to think of modding for the DLCs is like they're their own little contained games, as that's how it honestly feels like the game sees them, which is why mods will work in the base game and not necessarily in a DLC, and sometimes they'll work in one DLC but not the other two. Which means, you guessed it, you'll have to think of modding DAI as almost 4 separate experiences, one for the base game and one for each of the DLCs. Before troubleshooting, I'd highly suggest making a big save, preferably right outside the war room for easy access later, and then loading into a DLC and just seeing what happens. For me, I usually get the black load screen and my little Inquisition symbol in the bottom right corner just stops moving. It just stares at me, continually, judging me for using so many mods. If you too run into this judgy little unmoving symbol, continue on with the video. If not, go play the DLC and enjoy yourself. But before you do either of those two options, I'd highly suggest loading into each of the DLCs separately with your current mod list. That way you can see if you're good to go on one DLC but not another. For instance, for me, Descent is oddly enough the easiest of the DLCs to mod, and I usually don't run into too many issues, so I can keep more of my mods. However, JOH and Trespasser hate me with a passion. Usually, in my experience, the DLCs hate, and I do mean hate, companion face textures, especially .dai mod-based face retextures. So that's the first thing I always uninstall, with or without having tested things out at this point, to be honest. I've tried both Frosty and .dai mods in the DLCs for companion face textures, and my game likes to LOL nice try me every single time. You might luck out with Frosty-based ones. I know other people have had success with it in the past, so it's worth at least trying it out and seeing if it'll work for you. Once you remove the companion face retextures, the next thing you'll want to do is ditch anything that's not necessary. By that I mean stuff to get like crafting materials or more herbs. I love Party at the Winter Palace, but it's really not needed in a DLC. Anything that's mission specific, like the No Desecration mod, those aren't needed now, and they'll only just bog down your mod list in the DLCs. And before you hit the delete button on those mods, hold on. If you're using .dai mods, create a DLC can't use or something similar folder and tuck it somewhere safe. Then simply move those mods that you can't use right now into that folder. If you're using Frosty, you can of course just uncheck them and keep them in your mod manager. But that way, with the .dai mods, you can easily get them back at any time and will always know what you used in the past. If you have multiple characters going at once, consider labeling them by their names so you'll know that this is Ivy or Riley's Graveyard of Mods. When troubleshooting your mods, if you're using both Frosty and .dai mods, it's best to try loading into the DLC zones with only .dai mods to start. That way you can ensure that those are all working. And by working, I mean load in, do the intro cutscene, run around a little bit, talk to someone, throw some magic around, really make sure that it's fully working and you won't get any random freezes or crashes. Then, once all of your DAI mods are stable, add your Frosty mods back in. That way you'll easily know if a mod isn't working because it's a Frosty or .dai mod. If you're using a .dai mod complexion for your Inquisitor, make sure you get a no D-shine or trespasser safe version of either that complexion or just another one that you'll like, as removing the shine on the complexions is what really causes a lot of the crashing issues, which also in part could be why a lot of companion face textures don't like the DLC zones. It's also important to note that for me, sometimes I'll have a mod that will work in JOH as well as in Descent, but it will not work in Trespasser or vice versa. So make sure that you're testing out your mods in each of the DLCs, just so then that way you know this mod will work here, this mod won't work there, and just note that sometimes it just won't work across the board, and that's okay. Also, as a personal note, Trespasser for me usually has a gigantic problem with formal wear replacer retextures, and honestly, anything that just touches my formal wear. It might work for some people, it might work for you for Frosty, but not .dai mods, and vice versa. So if you're kind of stuck on what mod isn't working right now, double check that you don't have anything formal wear related. And lastly, if you've tried all of this and you still can't get it to load in and the judgy little Inquisition symbol is staring at you, you'll have to go back to the oldest trick in the book. And you guessed it, it's the good old trick of loading in one mod at a time. It's a pain in the booty, I know, but it always works. Start by adding in the least likely to break your game mods first, and then build from there, mod after mod, and testing to see what in fact is breaking it. And once again, if you are playing with both .dai and Frosty mods, I cannot suggest enough just doing your .dai mods first, getting that all to work, and then adding your Frosty mods back in after. It'll also save you with the patch folder, changing out on and off kind of thing. Hopefully there were a few troubleshooting tips in there that helped you get into the DLCs so you can continue to enjoy the game. If you have any general modding issues or questions, I'll link in the description my Dragon Age modding playlist so you can find all the related videos in there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!